Hey there, valiant risk takers. The topic of this video is brand naming or company naming. During our brand strategy workshops that we do with our clients, um, we oftentimes come to a conclusion that the company name or brand name has to be either developed or changed, and therefore we run our naming workshops. Sometimes we have 2, 3 people. Sometimes we'd have a team of 9 people working on the naming. Now, before I talk to you about the common mistakes business owners and key decision makers make with their brand naming, I wanted to let you in on how the process or the company naming, the brand naming process works. Talking with team members, we start off by explaining them how any name of an existing company or brand falls into one of the 6 categories. And this is really helpful because starting right off the bat and trying to come up with the name, go ahead, come up with the name. It's not that easy for people, especially for those who did not have any kind of practice in that. We had figured out that it's easier to put certain boundaries and limitations on how this problem should be approached. We start off with working in one category, explaining how other companies develop their names. And then we ask participants to use the same methods that were used by other companies within that category in order to try and generate a name for their business. From one category to another, we generate usually about 5 names in each of those categories. Now, the problem that most companies have with naming is that it usually takes a lot of time for people to come up with the name if they don't have the proper framework. Sometimes, we've heard that sometimes people are spending weeks, if not months, trying to come up with a good name, and nothing works for them. With the brand strategy workshop, and particularly with naming workshop, we've seen results within 30 to 60 minutes. And it's not just random words that you can use a name generator online to create, but really good, meaningful names that team members are really happy about. Once we finish generating names within each of the 6 categories, we basically vote on those that are better. There are certain criteria that defines better, but basically the point of doing that is to eliminate options. What we're trying to achieve is that we want to have just a handful of good, solid names before we move forward. And by moving forward, I mean that once we have a certain amount of good words that we really like, we do the research. And the research usually takes around 2 weeks in order to check whether the names are available, whether the names are appropriate, whether the names are easy to pronounce, they're not confusing, they're not similar to what competitors have, etc., etc., etc. So there are a lot of additional constraints on what constitutes a good name. Now, going back to the most common mistakes. So one of the categories that we explore is the category of abbreviations. So what's an abbreviation in naming? Well, basically, if you say American Institute of Brand Naming, if that's the company name, then your abbreviation would be AIBN, American Institute of Brand Naming. This is the category that you want to avoid. We usually start with this category in order for people to practice a little bit, just to warm up their brain muscles, so to speak. But after we're done doing that, we always tell people that this is the worst category, and you want to avoid using any of those names. And the reason for that is really simple. So imagine there's a company that's going to call itself PGTPS, or for instance, the company is going to call itself STPGT, or another company might call itself SGPPT. Now try to remember any of those company names. And these have only 5 letters in them, but I can guarantee you that it's virtually impossible for you to remember any of those company names that I just mentioned. The more letters, the worse it is. Now, the problem that business owners are facing is that they're looking at the big existing companies like KPMG, AT&T, IBM. They're all abbreviations. And so business owners start thinking that, it might be a good idea for my small business to have that sort of a name, similar. Because, hey, it worked for them, it probably is going to work for me. So if I'm going to use the same approach in company naming, then I'm probably going to win big time. Well, that's a common mistake, and you want to avoid making that mistake. The reason is simple. So the companies that had started a while back and became successful, they became market leaders, and they've also become well known. For a small company, using that sort of approach for a company naming is a suicide, because people will not be able to remember your company name or brand name. Another reason is that you want to differentiate yourself from competition. So if the big companies already have those abbreviated names, you want to move away from that. Many business owners think that, okay, we have a bunch of partners, let's just start using the initials of our first names and last names and try to combine them into something. Again, this is the kind of approach that everyone else is using, and it's not going to lead to good results. Now, there is a difference in abbreviation when, let's say, IKEA, right? So IKEA, that's an abbreviation, but the trick here is that, and the difference here is that IKEA sounds like a word. If you are going down the path of abbreviating something, and you kind of see the meaning behind those, behind every single letter, then you want to make sure that the result, the company name, sounds like a real word. All right, so that's basically the main tip that I wanted to convey to you. If you're in business, say, 5 years or more, you have your existing customer base, and you have your recurring revenue, perhaps you want to hire someone who has experience in brand naming, rather than trying to come up with the names yourself and do all the mistakes that everyone else already did. I think it's rather efficient and rational to hire someone who knows what they're doing, rather than, be stepping on the same rake that everyone else already did before you. So consider hiring me or someone else who's a good, experienced expert in brand naming. So any additional information, like an article or additional resources on naming, I'm going to put them in the description of this video, so you'll be able to get some additional information. And also, I'd made a post on Instagram about naming, and I think I also did one on LinkedIn, so you might want to check it out. I'll try and put those links to those resources in the description as well. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to reply to them. Do subscribe, because this will be a clear sign that this sort of video is important, valuable to you, share this with other small business owners. This will save their time and they will be grateful to you. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.